The words hit me like a sudden loss of cabin pressure at 35,000 feet. Your role is no longer sustainable under current fiscal strategies. Just like that. 19 years. Gone. I'm Captain Elias Vance, 54 years old, salt and pepper hair, the kind of guy who still irons his uniform before every shift because that's how my old man taught me. I've spent the last 19 years flying for Pinnacle Airways, the last 12 as a senior captain. Not a single late departure. Not one safety violation. I trained half the pilots in that company, including the kid who was about to take my plane out to Chicago that morning. And the guy telling me all that didn't matter? Declan Roth. Pinnacle's new efficiency director. A suit who'd never spent a day in a cockpit, sitting behind a desk so shiny I could see my own reflection in it. He didn't even look at me when he said it, just stared at his computer screen like he was reading off a script. Your salary doesn't align with our revised compensation matrix. He slid a manila envelope across the desk. Severance paperwork. No warning. No thank you. Just here's the door. Behind him, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see one of our Airbus A320s rolling toward the runway. Flight 422, Chicago bound. First Officer Nate Coulter in the captain's seat now. Kid was green as grass when I first took him up. Taught him how to handle crosswind landings, how to keep cool when the weather turned ugly. And now he was flying my route while some bean counter told me I was too expensive to keep. I didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. Just took the envelope, stood up, and straightened my jacket, old habit. Captain Vance, Roth said as I reached for the door. We'll need your badge and uniform before you leave. Like I was some kind of criminal. HR sent a woman named Linda to walk me out. She had that polite but firm look, like a substitute teacher. Clipboard in hand, steps measured. We'll just need to stop by security for your access card, she said, like she was giving me directions to the damn bathroom. The hallways felt longer than usual. Every step, I passed faces I knew, ramp agents, flight attendants, guys from maintenance. They didn't know yet. But they'd find out soon enough. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Sofia Reyes, my former co-pilot. They did what? News traveled fast. I didn't answer. Just kept walking, following Linda to the security office where I handed over my badge. No fanfare. No handshake. Just 19 years of my life stuffed into a cardboard box with my name scribbled on the side in black Sharpie. Outside, the morning sun was brutal. I stood there in the employee parking lot, holding that stupid box, watching another Pinnacle jet climb into the sky. And just like that, I was grounded. The apartment was too quiet. I dropped my keys in the dish by the door, the one my daughter made me at summer camp 10 years ago, and just stood there in the kitchen, still wearing my damn uniform shirt because I hadn't figured out what else to do with myself at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. The fridge hummed. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked. Normal sounds that didn't fit right now. I poured 2 fingers of bourbon, then dumped it down the sink before I took a sip. Not my style. Instead, I grabbed a Coke from the fridge, the can sweating in my hand as I slumped onto the couch. That's when my phone started blowing up. Sophia, call me when you get this. Diego, Cap, we need to talk. Nate, heard what happened. This is bullshit. Pinnacle hadn't always been this way. When I first signed on back in '04, old man Clifford Boone still ran the show. He'd been a pilot himself back in the '70s, one of those guys who could tell you the weather just by licking his finger and sticking it in the air. Hired me straight out of my interview because he liked how I'd handled the engine failure at takeoff scenario. This business runs on trust, he'd said, shaking my hand so hard I thought he'd pull my arm off. You keep my plane safe, I'll keep you flying. And he did. For 16 damn good years. Then Clifford retired. His son Garrett took over, and suddenly the place started feeling different. First came the consultants, guys in expensive shoes who talked about optimizing human capital like we were printer cartridges. Then the new efficiency director, Declan Roth, fresh from some corporate gig where he'd apparently saved millions by making people miserable. I noticed the changes right away. The flight sim time got cut in half. Maintenance started pushing back on overnight checks. Can't it wait till morning? Parts got ordered cheaper, took longer to arrive. I filed reports, raised hell in meetings, but Roth would just smile that tight little smile and say, "Captain, the data supports these adjustments." Like we were talking about paper clips instead of people's lives. My phone buzzed again. A new message from Diego. Emergency meeting, Hangar 3. 7 p.m., don't reply to this. I stared at the screen. Hangar 3 was our old unofficial spot, where we'd go to gripe about schedules or celebrate retirements away from management's ears. The fact they were calling a meeting now, today of all days. I scrolled back through my messages. At least a dozen pilots had reached out since I'd left HQ. Not just condolences, anger. Stories. Sophia had a first officer who'd been pressured to fly with a faulty altimeter. Diego caught maintenance skipping steps on a brake inspection. Small things adding up to one big problem. The grandfather clock in the hallway, a stupid heavy thing I'd inherited from my dad, chimed noon. I should have been halfway to Denver by now. Should have been running through checklists, drinking bad coffee from the crew lounge, giving Nate crap about his landing technique. Instead, I was sitting in my living room, still wearing one damn epaulette because I'd forgotten to take it off, staring at a text that felt like the first rumble of thunder before a storm. I typed back, "I'll be there." Then I finally took off the uniform shirt, folding it carefully the way I had every day since flight school. Old habits die hard. The fabric still smelled like jet fuel and coffee. Somewhere over the city, a Pinnacle flight roared overhead. I didn't look up. The smell of jet fuel and old concrete hit me as soon as I pushed open Hangar 3's side door. The place hadn't changed since my first year at Pinnacle, same flickering fluorescent lights, same oil stains on the floor in the shape of Texas, same dented coffee machine in the corner that only worked if you smacked it just right. What was different were the faces. 20 pilots stood in a loose circle under the dim glow of the work lamps. Not just any pilots, my pilots. Diego Mendez, who I'd pulled through instrument training after he failed his first check ride. Young Jamie Leong, barely 6 months out of flight school. Sophia Reyes, still in full uniform like she'd come straight from a flight. Even Nate Coulter, who should have been halfway to Chicago by now. The second I walked in, all conversation stopped. 20 pairs of wings turned toward me. Diego broke the silence. "They really did it, huh?" He held out a steaming paper cup, the good coffee from the diner down the road, not our usual break room swill. I took it, the heat bleeding through the thin paper. 3-minute meeting. 19 years for 3 damn minutes. A murmur ran through the group. Sophia stepped forward, her tablet glowing in the half-light. "This isn't just about you, Cap. They've been gutting this place for months." She turned the screen toward me. Maintenance logs. Dozens of them. "See this? Brake assembly inspection on tail number 328. Signed off as completed last Tuesday." Her finger tapped the screen. "Except I flew that bird Wednesday morning, and the brakes were squealing like a stuck pig. When I checked the logbook myself, no mechanic had touched them." Jamie chimed in, voice cracking. "Same thing happened to me with an oxygen system check. They're pencil whipping the logs, Cap. Just signing stuff off without doing the work." The coffee turned to acid in my stomach. I'd suspected corners were being cut, but this wasn't just lazy, this was criminal. Nate shook his head. And now they fired the one guy who'd call them on it. A toolbox clanged as someone kicked it. "We can't let this stand," Diego growled. Sophia swiped to another screen. "It gets worse. Look at the training hours." The graph showed a steep drop, from 60 monthly simulator hours to barely 20. "They're putting first officers in command positions with half the required check rides. Jamie here got promoted to FO after 3 sim sessions. 3. Jamie looked at his shoes. I remembered his last landing, floated halfway down the runway. Kid needed more time, and he knew it. The overhead lights flickered as a gust of wind rattled the hangar doors. Outside, a tug driver pushed a Pinnacle jet toward the terminal, its windows dark. Diego crossed his arms. So what do we do, Cap? All eyes turned to me. 19 years of training kicked in before I could stop it. First, we document everything. Every skipped inspection, every fudged log entry. Sophia, can you get copies of those maintenance records? She nodded, already typing. Nate, Jamie, I want a list of every pilot who's been rushed through training the past 6 months. I rubbed my temples. We do this right. No rumors, no maybes. Just facts. Someone near the back, I think it was First Officer Jenkins, muttered what everyone was thinking. And then what? Take it to Roth. Guy wouldn't know an aileron from his ass. The group chuckled, but it died quick. This wasn't some gripe session about overtime pay. People could die. Sophia's phone buzzed. She paled. It's Roth. They just called an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning. A hush fell over the hangar. The coffee machine chose that moment to gurgle loudly, like the damn thing was laughing at us. I looked around at my crew, really looked at them. Young, old, every color and background you could imagine. All united by one thing, they gave a damn. All right, I said, rolling up my sleeves. Let's get to work. The maintenance hangar door crashed open so hard it shook the tool racks. Garrett Boone stormed in like he owned the place, which, technically, he did. His $1,000 loafers squeaked on the oil-stained concrete, his tailored suit looking about as out of place as a tuxedo at a tractor pull. Behind him, Declan Roth slunk in like a weasel, flanked by 2 security guards who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. I recognized the taller guard, Mike, an ex-ramp agent who used to help me chase down luggage carts. He wouldn't meet my eyes. What the hell is this? Garrett's voice bounced off the metal walls. His face was that special shade of red rich kids turn when they don't get their way. You all have flights to prep for. Nobody moved. Not Diego, leaning against the workbench with his arms crossed. Not Sophia, standing protectively in front of the tablet full of evidence. Not even Jamie, though I saw his hands shaking where they gripped the edge of a parts cart. The coffee machine chose that moment to spit out a final, pathetic drip. Roth stepped forward, that smug little smirk plastered on his face. Captain Vance. I believe your employment was terminated this morning. He glanced at the others. Which makes this, what? A mutiny? Diego pushed off the bench. It's a safety stand down. FAA Regulation 121.533, crew can refuse assignment if there's reasonable concern about aircraft airworthiness. Garrett blinked like Diego had spoken Greek. Roth recovered faster. Don't quote regulations at us, Mendez. Your contracts require you to fly assigned routes. Sophia tapped her tablet screen. Unless management's falsifying maintenance logs. Then all bets are off. The temperature in the hangar dropped about 20 degrees. Garrett's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. That's a serious accusation. Damn right it is, I said, stepping forward. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. We've got proof. Brake inspections never performed. Oxygen systems signed off without testing. Training hours cut in half. I gestured to Jamie. This kid got 3 simulator sessions before they put him in the right seat. 3. Mike the security guard shifted uncomfortably. His partner stared at the ceiling like it held the secrets of the universe. Roth pulled out his phone. Last chance. Everyone returns to duty immediately, or you're all terminated. The silence stretched so tight I could hear the hum of the overhead lights. Then Sophia laughed. Not a giggle, a full, rich laugh that echoed off the steel rafters. She wiped her eyes and looked Roth dead in the face. "Well then," she said, unclipping her wings and dropping them on the workbench with a clink. "I guess you're firing us all." One by one, the others followed. Nate's wings hit the table. Then Diego's. Jamie fumbled with his pin for a second before adding his to the pile. Garrett looked like he might stroke out. Roth's smirk had vanished, replaced by something I'd never seen on his face before, fear. Outside, a baggage cart beeped as it backed up. Somewhere in the distance, a jet engine whined to life. Normal airport sounds, carrying on like nothing had changed. But everything had. I was elbow deep in my refrigerator, trying to decide if last week's meatloaf was still edible, when my phone rang. The caller ID said, unknown. Normally I'd let it go to voicemail, but after the last 24 hours, I figured it might be important. "Vance," I answered, balancing the phone between my ear and shoulder while poking at the questionable meatloaf. "Captain Vance." A woman's voice, crisp and professional but with an edge of warmth. "This is Lena Hart, CEO of Apex Aviation." I nearly dropped the phone. The meatloaf container hit the floor with a plastic clatter. "I've been following your situation at Pinnacle," she continued. "The FAA grounding, the maintenance scandal. Quite the mess." I could hear the faint hum of an office in the background, keyboards clicking, phones ringing. The sounds of an airline that wasn't currently imploding. "Yes ma'am," I said, grabbing a towel to clean up my spilled dinner. "Though I'm not sure what it has to do with me anymore." Hart chuckled. "That's where you're wrong, Captain. We at Apex have been looking for someone with your exact qualifications. Someone who understands that safety isn't just a line item on a budget report." Outside my kitchen window, the morning news played on my neighbor's TV. I caught flashes of Pinnacle's logo and the words, FAA investigation, in bold red letters. Hart continued, "I'd like to offer you a position heading up our new flight operations division. Complete control over training protocols, safety standards, the works." My dish towel froze mid-wipe. The clock on the microwave read 9:17 a.m. 24 hours ago, I'd been cleaning out my locker. Now the CEO of a competing airline was offering me. "What's the catch?" I asked. "No catch," Hart said. "Just bring that integrity of yours to Apex." "Oh, and Captain." "Yeah. Any of your former colleagues looking for work, we'd be happy to talk to them too." The meatloaf sauce was congealing on my linoleum. Somewhere down the street, a news van rolled by, probably headed to Pinnacle's headquarters. I looked at the wings pinned to my sun visor, the spare set I'd kept after turning in my uniform. Still shiny. Still earned. "When would you want me to start?" I asked. Hart's smile came through the phone clear as day. "How's tomorrow sound?" The Apex Aviation headquarters smelled like new carpet and jet fuel. I stood in their glass-walled conference room, running my hand along the edge of a state-of-the-art flight simulator schematic. The blueprints were still warm from the printer. Across the table, Lena Hart sipped black coffee from a mug that read, "Altitude is attitude." "Full autonomy," she repeated, tapping the employment contract in front of me. "You design the training program. You set the safety standards. No bean counters second-guessing your decisions." I flipped through the pages. The salary made my Pinnacle pay look like lunch money. The title Director of Flight Operations would have seemed ridiculous if my entire life hadn't already tipped into absurdity. Outside the window, a line of Apex's signature blue and white jets gleamed in the morning sun. No deferred maintenance here. No pencil-whipped logs. So. Hart raised an eyebrow. "What do you need to make this work?" I didn't hesitate. "My team." By noon, the calls started going out. Diego answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're not screwing with me, Cap." Sophia showed up at Apex's HR office within 2 hours, still wearing her Pinnacle wings. "Took these off yesterday," she said, slapping them on the recruiter's desk. "Be damned if I'm giving them back now." Jamie nearly cried when I called. They really want me. After everything. Especially after everything, I told him. The Pinnacle exodus became a flood. 28 pilots in 3 days. Mechanics. Dispatchers. Even old Bill from the fuel desk, who could tell a contaminated batch of Jet A just by sniffing it. Meanwhile, Pinnacle's stock price did its best impression of a failed engine. News channels played footage of stranded passengers and grounded jets. The ticker at the bottom of the screen might as well have read, Garrett Boone's bad life choices, down 58%. Clifford Boone broke his silence on day 4. The press conference played on every TV in Apex's crew lounge. The old man looked tired but dignified in his vintage Pinnacle blazer, the one with the frayed cuffs I remembered from 100 morning briefings. The board asked me to return, he told the cameras. Then he did something I'd never seen in 19 years. He smiled. But you can't fix a plane by rehiring the mechanics you fired. Sophia whooped so loud she startled a line of trainees. Diego bought everyone coffee. Me? I just stared at the schematics for our new simulator bay, tracing the outline of what we were about to build. Hart appeared in the doorway, her mug steaming. You realize we're stealing their entire operation, right? I tapped the blueprint. No ma'am. We're building something better. Somewhere across the tarmac, a Pinnacle jet sat idle, its engines cold. One of ours roared to life in its place. The desert wind carried the scent of hot tarmac and jet exhaust as I watched the 787's shadow stretch across runway 27 left. Diego's voice crackled over the operations radio, Apex Heavy 422, runway in sight. 6 months. 6 months since I'd stood in that dingy hangar watching my career implode. Now I stood on Apex's observation deck, sunlight glinting off the gold, Director of Flight Operations, pin on my lapel, as one of my pilots brought home our newest bird. The Dreamliner touched down smooth as butter, reverse thrusters roaring to life right on cue. Behind me, a group of new trainees applauded. Jamie, now instructor Young, beamed like a proud parent. Like watching poetry, Lena Hart said, handing me a steaming cup of coffee. The morning sun caught the silver streaks in her dark hair. Your team's got the softest touchdowns in the industry now. I sipped the coffee. Black, 2 sugars. She remembered. Pinnacle called this morning, she said casually, like mentioning the weather. Garrett's officially out. Board's desperate. They want you back as chief of operations. I choked on my coffee. The liquid burned all the way down. You're joking. Lena's smile could have powered the terminal lights. Offered to triple your Apex salary. Stock options. A seat on the board. She watched the 787 taxi toward the gate. They even said you could bring your whole team back. Down on the tarmac, Diego emerged from the aircraft, flight bag slung over his shoulder. He spotted us in the observation window and threw up a salute. I laughed, a real, deep belly laugh that startled a passing secretary. Tell them I'm busy. Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and arched an eyebrow. Speaking of, it's Clifford Boone. The old man's voice sounded stronger than it had in years. Heard you turned them down, kid. Wasn't much of a decision, I said, watching Sophia lead her crew across the ramp. Clifford chuckled. Good. That airline died when they forgot what really keeps planes in the air. Through the window, I saw Diego hoist a young mechanic off the ground in a bear hug after her first successful engine inspection. People, I said. Damn right, Clifford agreed. Listen, I've got some friends at the FAA who want to make your training program the new industry standard. You free for lunch next week? The 787's engines whined as they spooled down. Somewhere below us, a new batch of trainees peppered Jamie with questions. The morning sun warmed my face through the glass. Yeah, I said, smiling at Lena's raised eyebrow. I think I can clear my schedule. The cockpit of Apex Flight 101 smelled like fresh leather and strong coffee. I ran my fingers along the edge of the throttles, feeling the perfect resistance, not too stiff, not too loose. Just right. Checklist complete, Cap. Diego's voice pulled me back. He leaned against the jump seat, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. Fuel's loaded, cargo secured, and we've got a full boat of paying customers who actually want to fly with us. Outside the window, the rising sun painted the runway gold. 16 months ago, I'd watched my career end through an office window. Today, I'd be taking this brand new 787 to Tokyo on its maiden commercial flight. Not because I had to, because I damn well wanted to. Sophia appeared in the doorway, her captain's stripes crisp against her sleeves. Tower just cleared us. You ready to show these fancy computers how a real pilot flies? I tapped the glass cockpit display. Think I can still remember how. The truth was, I could have stayed in my fancy corner office all day. Could have let the younger pilots handle this route. But Lena had understood when I'd made it part of my contract, 2 flights a month, minimum. Some things you don't give up, no matter what title they put on your door. As we began the pushback, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Pinnacle Airways files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Diego saw me reading and snorted. Karma's a bitch with perfect attendance. The tower crackled in our headsets. Apex 101, cleared for takeoff runway 26 right. Sophia's hands hovered over the controls. Your airplane, Director. I wrapped my fingers around the yoke. The rumble of the engines vibrated up through the floor, that familiar thunder that never got old. All right folks, I said into the cabin mic, this is Captain Vance. We'll be cruising at 38,000 feet today with smooth skies all the way to Tokyo. As we roared down the runway, I thought about Roth's last words to me. You're no longer sustainable. The nose lifted, wheels leaving the ground with that perfect weightless moment. Below us, the Apex terminal grew smaller, the morning sun glinting off its glass walls. Inside, 23 former Pinnacle pilots were training our next generation. Across the globe, 17 Apex jets carried the safety protocols I'd designed. Turns out, Roth had been right. I wasn't sustainable. I was goddamn indispensable. Sophia reached over and tapped the altimeter as we passed through 10,000 feet. Welcome back, Cap. The horizon stretched out forever, clear and bright. Exactly where I belonged.